What's going on, guys? Khalipa's Tech here, coming back at you with another video. This is pros and cons for the BLU G50 Mega. In this video, I'm going to be going over some of the strengths and weaknesses to this phone to help you decide if it's the right one for you. Before we go any further, I do want to ask you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. And now, let's get into the video. So my first pro for this phone is the large display. At 6.5 inches, this phone's display is definitely impressive. At 6.5 inches, this phone's display is definitely on the larger side, making it ideal for content consumption like streaming videos, playing games, even reading. Everything's gonna show up a lot larger, so if you need to see those little details, it's gonna look a lot better on this phone. My second pro for this phone is the device security. This phone has not only a fingerprint scanner right here in the back in a real easy to reach spot, but also face unlock as well. And at this price range, while it's not super uncommon, it's still not something you see every day. Usually they'll only have one of these features, or sometimes phones that are even higher priced than this one don't have either of them, meaning you're going to be stuck with a PIN or a password. So having both a fingerprint scanner and face unlock on this phone is really nice. I'm going to show you exactly how well this fingerprint scanner works. There we go, one more time. And there we go. As you can see, this fingerprint scanner is real fast and responsive. No issues here. The cool thing about having both a fingerprint scanner and face unlock is that if one's not working out for you for whatever reason, you can always use the other as a backup, so you still won't have to enter any type of password or PIN or anything like that. My third pro for this phone is the battery. This phone has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery that supports 10 watt fast charging, and while it's not the biggest battery in the world, it's definitely a decent size that's going to give you a good amount of battery life throughout the day and a nice amount of longevity down the road, so you won't have to replace your phone nearly as quickly because the battery is not going to wear out as fast as, say, an iPhone 12 battery that's just over 2,800 milliamp hours, so a lot smaller than this one. My fourth pro for this phone is that it has USB-C. As you can see right here, between the microphone and the speaker, this phone has a USB-C port, which is really nice because a lot of phones in this price range only have micro USB or sometimes even mini USB, and neither of those are as good as USB-C. Having USB-C means it's going to be a lot easier for you to get high quality accessories, and in general, USB-C is going to be better whether you're connecting your phone to a computer or simply just charging it with a fast charger. It's just going to be a better experience overall. It's a lot more modern and just a better choice in general. And it's nice to see that this phone has USB-C, considering, again, a lot of phones in this price range only have micro USB or mini USB, which just isn't as good. My fifth pro for this phone is the processor. This phone is getting 2 GB of RAM with the Unisoc SC9863A processor. I ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone, and even though the RAM might not be quite the best, the processing power is pretty impressive for the price range. This phone has a single core score of 153 and a multi-core score of 774, so these numbers are actually pretty good, especially compared to other phones in the price range. They can be significantly lower. In my experience using this phone, I haven't had any performance issues, so I would say for basic activities like browsing the web, going on social media, sending text messages, making calls, that sort of thing, it's gonna be a real good choice. What I would recommend though is running a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on your current device and comparing it to this one to see if it's an upgrade. So now that we've gone over some of the good stuff about this phone, let's go over the not so good stuff. My first con for this phone is the camera setup. On the rear here, we just have a dual camera setup with a 12 megapixel rear camera and a 12 megapixel depth sensing camera for portrait mode. Now, don't get me wrong, this phone can take some real nice pictures, but at the same time, it's just lacking in a lot of features that most phones nowadays have. The ultra-wide camera is the main thing I would say this phone is missing. Ultra-wide cameras are becoming so popular these days that I feel like every phone should have them, and it's a real useful tool. And overall, it's just too bad that this phone doesn't have anything like that. In addition to this, the video quality is a little disappointing on this phone, not even being able to shoot 1080p in the front-facing camera, being limited to 720p. I feel like it should at least be able to shoot 1080p, and then the microphone isn't very good either. So if you just want to take some decent photos here and there and keep them, maybe for social media or something like that, this phone is going to be okay for that. But if you want more advanced features like an ultra-wide camera or a macro camera or something like that, then you're definitely going to want to look at other devices. My second con for this phone is the software. This phone only has Android 10. Right now we're on Android 11, getting close to Android 12, so this phone is quite a bit behind as far as software goes, and that's a little disappointing, especially for those who want the newest version of Android as it comes out. I seriously doubt this phone is going to get updates, so you're pretty much going to be stuck with Android 10 for the life of this phone. Now that being said, Android 10 is still a great software, and it runs really well on this phone, so if that doesn't bother you, then it's not really a big deal. But if it does, definitely I would say you should look at other devices, because again, this phone is pretty behind in software. My third con for this phone is the storage. This phone is getting 32 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion, which isn't really bad for the price range, but it's not very impressive either. For the average user, as long as you watch what you're putting on the phone, you should be fine. But if you're a power user, especially if most of the space you take up with your phone is from apps, I would definitely recommend finding a device that has a little bit more storage, because 32 gigabytes, again, while it's not too bad, I've seen other phones in the same price range with as little as 16, isn't really a lot either, and you're probably gonna burn through it real quick if you're a power user. My fourth con for this phone is that there's no NFC. This isn't too surprising considering a lot of the real low-end entry-level phones don't have NFC, but it's still a feature that I would like to see in pretty much every phone. In case you didn't know, NFC is the technology behind contactless mobile payment services like Google Pay, Samsung Pay, Apple Pay, all that sort of thing. And these days, these services are getting so much more popular and widely used that I feel like every phone should have it. My fifth and final con for this phone is the display quality. In addition to having a 6.5-inch display, this display is an IPS LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, and an aspect ratio of 20:9. So while the size is really good for this phone, the quality of the display isn't the best. I have the brightness at 100% right now, and it doesn't look too bad, but it does leave a little something to be desired. The colors could be a little bit stronger, and the resolution in general, having a 720p display is going to be okay for a lot of stuff, but if you're doing something like viewing photos where you want everything to look a little bit sharper, then there's going to be a bit of a drawback there. And if you're doing something like gaming, again, it would be better to have a 1080p display. But those were my pros and cons for the BLU G50 Mega. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you want to learn more about the phone, definitely check out my full review of the device on the channel. But that's it for this video. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.